in it together here to try to find some solutions and smash some ideas together and see what can be coming out the extruder on the other side, because there's so much BS out there. Hopefully we can separate that out and just get pure thought and idea. Always evolving, always evolving. There's never a set in stone period of time, except, well, maybe something. Gold has been used for thousands of years. It will be used for thousands of years more. That's kind of an easy one to get at. So starting off, I did want to talk about gold and pricing and inflation here to start us off. I'm going to throw a few thoughts out there, and then Ransom, hope you can join in and get your ideas here. We're going to run with it. The most expensive breakfast ever. So if we're looking at the price of pork, bacon, eggs, cheese, bread, and coffee, that rose over 50% in the last, let me give you the exact chart here. Yeah, since September of last year, that is up 50%. Okay, that's not exactly 10% a month, but it's very close. So silver and gold, I have some ratios here for you. Currently, the silver to gold ratio is 91 to 1, but we'll just say 90 to 1 to make it easy math. And I'm going to round up, gold's almost 3,000. It hit another high right near like $2,978. So we're just like $30 shy of 3,000. So we'll call it 3,000. And silver is right up at $33. And I'll bring it to 35 to make it easier math. Now that's a 90 to 1 ratio. Now for the last 4,000 years, it's been around 20 to 1. Now think only in the last 100 years or under has it deviated from that. Only since the 1930s, which is, about 90 plus years ago, is the only time in human history that gold silver ratio has not been 20 to 1, 15 to 1, 18 to 1. The only time in human history in the last 4,000 years. So you got to think something unusual has happened in these last 90 years. So if it is going to swing back, a lot of people were going, all right, I want to get rich, I want to buy gold. Okay, not financial advice, but just simple numbers and common sense here. If we go back to a 20 to 1 on the gold silver ratio, like it has been in history, that would bring gold up to $40,000 and silver would be approximately $2,000. Now, if you're looking at it, okay, that's great. If they're going to reset part of a monetary system to gold, about half of it, let's say they only do 18 trillion. They don't even do the full 36 trillion because we can use land, cryptocurrency, and a bunch of other assets for the other 15 trillion. Plus all the waste they're finding, we can cut those numbers down anyway. So let's say only 15 trillion is going to be offset by gold revaluation. That'll bring us to 40,000 gold conservatively, 2,000 silver at a 20 to 1 ratio. But with that being said, gold would only go up 13.3x. So you'd only get a 13x return on your money, whereas silver would go up 57 times, a 57x, based on just not revaluing them, just on the silver to gold ratio pairing itself and America revaluing its gold. Those two things. And you're looking at a 57x increase in silver prices at that point. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to buy gold to get rich. Well, at that point, if you've made 57x your money back on silver, perhaps you could trade 20 ounces of silver and get an ounce of gold and then hold on to that gold for a longer period of time because, silver prices fluctuate a little bit due to industrial use. People are going to run to it as a safe metal during this depressionary time. And thank you for throwing those news articles up there. We can discuss a few more of those. But after the panic subsides, the silver price will drop first. The gold price should remain stable because it's the thing that's going to be backing the currency. So you see, I've been watching a bunch of people talk about this. How do you take advantage of it? So if it comes down to 20 to 1, then you take 57 ounces of silver, or you take 20 ounces of silver, and then you just trade it in for gold. Now, if you're sitting on a few hundred ounces of silver, oh, that's great, because you can get 10 ounces of gold. And that is truly the wealth of kings, because that revalued asset price would hold for 50 years. But the price of silver is going to come down pretty much in a year or two after that contagion's finished, because we're just going to be using for applications. But I know there's some new applications that use 32 ounces in each solid state battery for new vehicles. With that being said, if we go into a global depression, then obviously manufacturing is going to decrease. So the need for the metal would decrease. There's an inverse of that. But in terms of financial panic, which we're getting into, we're about a fifth of an eighth of a second before average mom and pop and Main Street understands silver's cheap. It's a way to hedge against inflation, and you don't have to put out $3,000 for an ounce. You can get it for 33, 35. The premiums I looked all over a bunch of sites to try to do for this morning's talk points. JM Bullion had the best price on the Asahi 1 ounce rounds at $35, including premium. All the other sites I went through, 3 or 4 other, from Kitco to Money Metals with Mike Maloney's site. I went over to Kitco, I already said Kitco, AppMex, and a couple others. And it was all at 40 to 41, including premiums. So JM Bullion for sure, by far. Because if I was going to buy bullion, I said, if I was, would you spend $35 for the same 1 ounce of silver, or would you spend $41 for it? That's how much is built into the premiums, which is insane, coming back to that. And yeah, is the global depression of our lifetime coming? I don't know, Ransom, what do you think? Are they broadcasting a ton of these different moves that are going to be happening right now? Is it your news feed? Are you being fed AI that a global depression is coming? Or is it all of our news feeds are being fed this same dire news of global depression?
Never get left out in the cold. There is never a reason to ever let you or your family suffer. Instafire and Civilization Cycle are on a mission to make fire starting and off-grid living easy for everyone. You shouldn't have to be a mountain man to strike a flame and make a fire anytime, anywhere.
And again, Revolution Radio, thank you for letting us talk about this, and consider a donation. Revolution Radio, right up the top navigation bar, how to donate and keep this platform on air so we can share this experience and this information with you. Thanks, Revolution Radio. What do you think, Ransom? Are you getting the AI news feed that depression's coming and they're feeding you that to make you fearful, or are you seeing it everywhere across all the news waves?
No, I was actually seeing that exact thing. That's what I was telling you. All across. So you sent me a bunch of articles that looked just like the articles I had. I mean, that's what they're saying. But it's to be expected. And I know people have a short memory, but for the last 4 years, that's what's been coming. They've been edging towards this idea of not only a global conflict, but a recession, food shortages, supply chain problems. That's what we've been being fed for the last 5 years. Now, eventually, they're going to have to pull, the strings and make their plan go. And what a better time to do it than the boogeyman that, they've been telling us is the boogeyman. And I kind of predicted that before Trump got in office, that whether he did it or is at fault or not at fault or what he's doing, that if you were some of the global elite and you wanted the economy to collapse, if you wanted reasons for a large third world war, you would definitely pull the trigger on that. When the nationalist guy is, getting popularity or is even in office. And if you've been looking across Europe, the countries, let's say they're becoming a little volatile when they realize that year after year after year, the European Union and their country, whoever's running their country, has just not been doing what's in their benefit, which obviously is going to make the populations become nationalist, almost as if that was the plan the whole time. Because you can't really have instability if you don't have people at each other's throats, or if you don't throw a wrench in the trade and somehow. And, I wanted to also bring up the fact that you remember last year when we were talking about the Ukraine, we were talking about how dangerous it was that they were sending rockets back and forth in that area because Chernobyl has a concrete cocoon around it, underneath it and above it. And when you look into that, you find out it was only meant for 100 years. And then, a few decades later, they said, it's breaking apart. We need to fix it. So in the 90s, they repaired it, did some work on it, and then gave a new estimate of 50 years. And we were talking about, if something were to happen to Chernobyl, it would mess up the entire water supply of Eastern Europe, from the Black Sea all the way down to the Mediterranean, would be just spoiled, because the underground water would be now contaminated. And guess what? You're not going to be growing wheat in that area if the water supply is radioactive, or at least I would hope you wouldn't want to eat that wheat that grew there. But that happened. It's just like thing after thing that seems inevitable happened. And it doesn't matter which empty suit is up there. I mean, I don't want to talk too bad, but essentially it becomes an empty suit when the same global programs move forward, no matter what they're doing. So I think Kennedy, for example, had some good intentions and tried to wield the power of the presidential executive branch in the way that it was laid out in the Constitution. It actually uses powers, and it seems like a bunch of other people said, you know what, we give the directions around here, and we're not doing that. So sorry about that. And it could happen again, with or without violence, like in the past. It could just happen. I mean, he's only one guy representing one country, and so far he's been doing very well as far as trade negotiation and things like that. So for those people that are, just grinding at the bit for failure, they're going to try to help failure happen. And that includes recession, inflation, and all of that stuff. Maybe even still war. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet with several scenarios that could impact global alliances and cause people to take sides and commit to those sides, whether it's financial with the two competitive financial markets, the BRICS and the dollar, or it's just that, the Operation Gladio folks get their way and successfully start problems amongst nations and get the ball rolling on World War III.
Well, the radiation aside, Campi Flegrei, the large super volcano in Italy, is rumbling to life again. If that were to go off, that would do far more damage, I think, than the radiation. I mean, you would take all of Italy off, all of Greece, a huge amount of what the Balkans would be, and that would swing over into Turkey and take, a huge amount of Turkish production offline instantly. Like, there would be a big ash zone there that would be terrifying, how much food production we would lose. And you start to look at that, and also there would be the number of ports that would shut down, the number of rail lines. The contagion on a shipping and logistics basis alone would rock the planet. And plus that super volcano going off, there would definitely be a huge amount of that latitude, wherever that would be in, southern Italy, like that latitude across the entire planet. Once it circulated along, you'd get that reverberations of a cooler climate within that zone, 30 north, to something like 25, 30 north, that across the entire planet, wherever the ash cloud and the sulfur dioxide from that eruption was spinning around for that first 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, depending on it was, temperatures drop tremendously. And it just depends on, what season they were in, growing or not. That volcano would do as much damage. But I get you with the radiation. Imagine if that were to happen. Well, we can't grow here anymore. We have to move our new crop growing zone to North Africa. The Romans did it. We can do it again. Look at all the technology we have. You can just see, I can already read the news headlines. Chernobyl poisons, a huge part of Europe's crop growing areas. Oh, wait, there was already a previous one that's not really built out in any way, shape, or form to its former maximum that it was during the Roman Empire. Like, there's vast regions up in northern Africa that are not being utilized right now that the Romans were putting into use that we're not in our modern era using. So with our techniques where Gaddafi proved that you can bring water from beneath one of the Nubian sandstone aquifer where he's at. Other aquifers all around. Look for an aquifer map of Africa. And then think about what we can do with modern technology and pumps and this kind of, drying in facilities and different kind of seeds, genetic seeds that we have for all types of conditions. We could really set up a grain growing zone there. It was probably under 3 years. But that interim between when either there was a radiative event or whether there'd be a large volcanic event, they could set up a new grow zone, but imagine all the money that would go in there. Now, between then and now, you'd have, if the economy were going to collapse, that would be a bonus for the planners, because then, those resources could be harvested. And then they need to regrow the new economy after the collapse. So this is the thing. After you wipe something out, you need to rebuild it. But you're not going to rebuild it in the old system. It has to be a new system to rebuild. Now, what great expansion of credit and debt issuance could there be, anything bigger than setting up the new world's largest grow zone in North Africa? Hell, the BRICS are there. They're gold producers there. They're oil producers. That's commodity traded for commodity. Like if you're going to set up a new global debt system, you need like a seed point for that. And the seed point will probably be, in my opinion, if they had either of these two events happen and it took 25% of Europe's grain production offline, and then Ukraine is just, like I say, it was a smash to smithereens mess anyway in the farming areas. Before Trump used that verbiage last week, and there's no way they're coming. It would take them 10 years of global investment before they can even get the farm fences and their irrigation canals in Ukraine back up and running again. We're at least a decade out, plus the unexploded ordnance and the cleanup, and we're at least a decade out of before Ukraine comes anywhere remotely close back to bringing 30 million tons out for export. There's no way. Decades, plural. But going into somewhere that's fresh, that hasn't been damaged, that you don't need to clean it first, that you just start construction instantly. You got and then they could deploy stable coins for the payment systems. Then everybody would want to come. Americans would go there and work if they were being paid in stable coins. Of course, the whole entire planet would want to go work there, and especially if it was a stable coin backed by gold, like Pax Gold or something. Everybody would run there to go work and think about the new growth of the global economy. Just collapsed. We've had the worst, made Great Depression in the 1930s look easy, like you're at the country club on a Sunday weekend. This one would be nasty. And to get out of the nastiness, then they need these hopeful news. They need the hopefulness of businesses, and business is going to be great. We got this contract for North Africa, man. We're going to build it all out. And stage 2 would be the Sahel. Now think about that. They could roll an entire new global economy into just building out North Africa for food production. And then how would that be? How could you crash the global system? And that's the whole thing. Like a war, maybe, but a lot of money is made in war. So it's not really like a war. You destroy the country, but you don't really destroy everything across the whole world to collapse the global economy. Generally, it contracts some, but man, there's some huge winners in the war. That's what it's all about, breaking it up, blowing it up, destroying it, and then rebuilding it. There's a huge amount of money in that churnover. Ask like Halliburton, for example, how their business model works with Northrop Grumman and these kind of all in bed together. We'll build the weapons, you bomb it up, you blow it up. Hey, H-bomb's gone forever anyway. We got another, $3 million this, $2 million that. Okay, that all goes away with the silver, by the way. And then we got to come in and rebuild it. Oh, there's Halliburton picking it up. What could collapse the global economy? The gold not being in the Federal Reserve is what it would be. And it's so interesting timing. You're picking up on it. News is feeding us that the global economy is pretty much dead, even with the paddles in the ER. And there's still, didn't get it started again, barely, give it some adrenaline. Okay, it's almost starting again. 3 things were going to happen here. If they audit the Fed. So far you have to put into context, they've flown 2,000 tons back to America. Obviously the gold wasn't there, or they wouldn't be flying 2,000 tons of gold back to America. and causing shortages across the rest of the world where they can't deliver. And this is becoming a serious thing now. There's a run on gold happening across the world. See, the London Bullion Metals Exchange couldn't deliver. So anybody who had a contract for like 400 ounces or whatever, they're supposed to have it. So a lot of people didn't want it because the London Exchange in London itself and the vaults was supposed to have their gold. It was always assumed they had it. So nobody wanted it because they always had it, and they could get it within 1 to 3 days anytime over the last, say, since 1947. There was never a delay. It was like a 1 to 3 day on expiry of the futures contracts. Never, ever in the history has it ever been delayed. And they're like, okay, it's always been there up until now. And because people realize, oop, it's not there anymore. I want it. So now everybody wants their paper contract to claim the gold in London, and it's not there. So now they have to wait up to 3 months to get their gold. And then that makes London, the LBMA, run out on the open market to get the gold. But then they have to pay something like 20% more to get it. The leasing rates went up to 16%. Also in Korea right now, there is a metal shortage. They are not selling any more gold or silver in the country because the citizens went out and stripped the country clean out of every bank, every metals dealer, every warehouse that sold gold. Big bars, small bars, big coins, small coins, everything's stripped. So they don't have any more gold. They literally only have like 100 and some tons left. So Korea stopped selling gold and silver in the country, one of the first countries to do so. But if they do an audit on the Fed, there's ways to fake the audit. I'm going to be devil's advocate on this one. There are many ways to fake the audit. But if they come in there, and if your news headlines are the gold's not there, that is a purposeful crash of the economy, and then it's game on. That'll be an instant rejection of the US dollar. At that point, nobody will want the dollar, and then they will have the legal right to say, no, we don't want to hold your dollars. Like right now, we got the military and Trump and all this stuff saying, you ditch the dollar, we're going to tariff you and this, that, and the other. Okay, well, that's on the playing field we have now. There's a set of rules. The minute the gold's not there, that entire rules set changed to America defaulted. That gives them the legal right to say we don't want the dollar any longer. You don't even have the gold reserves. You've been lying to us. That's fraud. And then they can get United States legally on fraud. At that point, then people will instantly reject the dollar and run away from it. And at that point, then the global economy crashes. And Trump, I was reading just yesterday, he was saying, even if that happens, don't do it because we're all in this together. If America falls, it's the main leg of the everything economy. So if America crashes, you all reject the dollar, then you're going to crash with us. And it's going to be worse for you being a smaller country than it is for us because we're the main dog on the street. So just look at the news for the last couple of days. He is already telling you something in advance here. The gold's not there. Not to the 8,500 tons they said it was. They just rushed in 2,000 tons to try to cover it. But even if it's only 50% of the gold in the vault, let's say they come up with 4,500 tons or something, that's still a default on America's part. The 8,500 tons is not there. That will be an instant default on the dollar. There'll be trillions coming home within the week. And at that point, as I was told, David, please get ready for 50% per month inflation at the best case. And at that point, what America would have to do is revalue whatever gold is there, whatever gold, at $132,000 an ounce. And at 20 to 1, that would bring that to $6,600 an ounce silver. And that would only cover the full 36 trillion. But if we don't have all the gold there, then they try to do the debt revaluation to give stability back and confidence in the dollar, then that's going to go northward of $200,000 an ounce for gold. That for me is seemingly impossible. You are at a complete default and complete collapse of the global economy. Economy is totally collapsing down before it's going to 200,000 an ounce. I firmly would believe there's no way they're going to revalue it at $260,000 to cover the American debt. That's insane. That's impossible, in my opinion. But this is what it is out on the street. I've been doing a lot of research on this because I will be officially retired during the Great Depression, because to position yourself in getting ready for, like Ransom said so cleanly, man, if you know it's coming and if you prepare, you are going to be incredibly wealthy. I'm talking multi-generational dynastic wealth during this time. If you're just barely prepared, you're going to have multi-generational wealth. If you're very prepared, you're going to have dynastic wealth that will last hundreds of years for your family. That's where it's going to. And this clear signs, if the audit of the Fed is not there and we don't have the gold, we are toast. But would they toast us on purpose? Would they turn the temperature up in the toaster to burn the toast is the question. That's an unknown. So far we're still in a big like unknown holding pattern until they do the Fed. And let me see if I'm going to send you a slide here, Ransom.
All right.
I don't know if you have anything to respond to that, but that was my long-winded answer there.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how, if you were to take the United States as a company that has stock in it, and it's based on certain things, and then all of a sudden you don't have, the property that your company is based on. And then everybody sells all their stock off. Everybody loses money. And then all of a sudden, all this gold that disappeared pops back up. You buy everything for nothing. You can buy everything for nothing, right? Because the gold was there, but everybody sold the idea, the stock in it for nothing. So you could collapse the entire economy. People pull out money, do all that stuff. And then, I don't know, maybe all that gold that went missing on 9/11 and wherever the Fort Knox gold is today, showed back up afterwards. The people that had that gold could buy everything for nothing because they would have the only real value of anything. I kind of wanted to, after we get...
Wait, now, Ransom, if I could dovetail that, I wanted to go right on that point there. We are used to seeing dollars at 3,000 US dollars for an ounce of gold. Okay, if the collapse happens and they revalue everything in gold and we're on a gold-backed system, we suddenly rewind back to like early 1900s value in like 1915, where $1 could buy or $10 could buy you a week's worth of groceries. Like you're back at that pricing with the current money that you would have millions of dollars with. Like the reset comes in two ways. When it comes back, you get the full $1 of purchasing power versus like the 2 cents we have right now. That's why things cost so much. Using the Campbell Soup Index, go back in time, like $1 back in 1915, $1 would buy you an incredible amount of stuff. $10, $20, you had food for a month, literally for a family of 5 people. That's what it bought you. The deflation now is just ridiculous. You need $200, $500, $300 to get enough food for a family for 2. That might not even be enough now. But that revaluation of gold in itself is going to bring us back to a gold-backed currency where every $1 has 100 cents worth of buying power in it to reset the system. And then it's going to be reset to what, 3,000, 5,000 for the ounces of gold. So you got to multiply everything by hundreds in terms of your value of that same piece of metal again. Thanks. I just wanted to try to clarify that for people. It's not about just the price. It's about the value of the money, what you can buy after it resets on that price of you buying stuff for 1 penny on the dollar.
Right. And, it would be so easy to fake an audit of gold. It's not like you're going to get people in there with jacks and move it around and count bar by bar. They're going to look at it and estimate it. And I see right here on this slide that you sent me, it says displaying fake gold bars. And that's exactly what I was thinking. All you'd have to do really, like, do you remember that famous picture of Fort Knox from the past where the guy opens the thing and there's gold bars all the way to the door? And it's obviously built or stacked there so that you can't see in the room and there's no way to estimate how much gold is there because you only see this little bit. And it was so stupid because obviously no one's going to stack the gold bars all the way up to the roof of the door where you can't get in or out of the door of this supposed, vault. So it was obviously a stage fake picture. But in today, even if you took a camera crew in there and they tested one gold bar, what are they going to test every single gold bar with the scratch test? No, they test one. They estimate the rest of the weight or the rest of the bars and then say how much is there. So it'd be so easy to fake that to the public. It's a joke. How are you going to actually audit it without having somebody go in there and do a scratch test on every single bar of gold and then cut it in half to make sure it's all the way through? It's impossible. But there's tons.
It would
and
take
tons
years.
of
No, it would
gold
take
out there.
years. That's one of the drawbacks of this audit is if you wanted to do the chemical test and do drill or cuttings of every single bar, you were talking years plural to do the audit. So they're buying themselves time to bring more gold in to show that there's 8,500 tons, because that selective audit where they only show you where gold is, that's real gold. They need to test literally every single bar in there, and that's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to do it, though. Why? I mean, for the public, that's all it's for. It's not to actually find out how much there or if it's there. It's to tell the public one thing or another. Either it's gone, panic, or look, it's here. Don't worry about it. We got it all under control. Trust the plan. It could
Yeah,
go
because
either way.
points 7 and 8 are the most important there. Can you read point 7 and 8 on that one?
Yes. Let's see here. Where was it? There it is. Documentation fraud and auditor collusion and incompetence.
Well, I would be more on the collusion part there. So lump those two together. It's all one big club right now, right? They're going to give you the results that they want moving forward for the economy to collapse or the economy to stay intact. Period. It's pretty much an A or B choice. You're not going to get sort of a collapse. It's going to be a full collapse or it's not. There's really no in between. So this is where I'm coming at in the future, like trying to forecast out when we start to get messaging the gold ain't there, you better buckle up to crash position, wrap yourself in like plastic bubble wrap, get into 16 airbags and hold on kind of thing. Or not, if they say it's there.
Well, I did want to say to this. I personally am not a rich person and have never been rich or wealthy or any of that. Well, I guess I'm rich in the sense of the word rich, but wealthy as far as monetary wealth. My family's not been wealthy, but maybe back in antiquity, but not any time recently. However, oddly, I know more than a handful of millionaires or multimillionaires. And they're all saying the same thing. If you don't have gold, silver, and real assets, you are not going to make it through the transition. And why are they still worried about a transition despite being pro-establishment or the current administration? They were all on the boat with that, and they still are predicting that there's going to be hard times. Now, I'm no genius or nothing, but it seems like they might know something or they wouldn't be millionaires. Because some of these people are not, born with the silver spoon up their butt millionaires. They're people that invested in the decades past and now are millionaires or multimillionaires. And if they're sitting around collecting gold, physical gold, at their places that they're stashing it, and they're making bug out places, and they're doing that, they might be onto something. I'm just saying.